What's up, everybody? You're listening to the Hustle and Flowchart podcast with your boys, Matt Wolf and Joe Fear.
So first and foremost, I guess if you don't have a business that's already making money, don't run YouTube ads, right? Definitely prove it to organic first. Definitely get some organic sales going. Definitely start building word of mouth. Definitely start building it through organic methods without spending any money, because you're going to waste a lot of money if your offer isn't proven, if your funnel isn't proven, if your back end isn't even in existence right now. But if you are a business owner who, specifically for us, obviously we help a lot of info product businesses that sell online courses, coaching, high ticket, programs, challenges, virtual masterminds, in-person masterminds, all that kind of, online education space. If you're already making, 6 figures from your business, I would even say a high 6 figures, it would need to be higher for sure. Like you're going to want to spend, and the budget you're going to have to start with depends on the offer, right? But for example, if you're selling a low ticket offer, let's say $37, you're going to want to be able to break even on that offer and still be able to, have a back end that makes up for that money. Otherwise, you're going to be too dependent on the front end to make it profitable day after day after day after day, which we've had problems with clients in the past because they were so dependent on being 2x, 3x, 4x on the front end. And if they were break even, they were like really mad. And more importantly, their business just wasn't sustainable, which that would be my first piece of advice, right? Is build the business enough to where you're making a significant amount of money from it to where you can realistically afford to lose, let's say $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, and be okay with it while you get it dialed in, because you know that eventually you're going to crack the code to cold traffic. But in order to do that, you have to have all those systems in place. You have to have, your 30, 60, 90-day LTV of an average customer for your business, kind of mapped out already. Otherwise, you don't know exactly how much you can afford to spend on the front end for one new customer or one new lead, right? And not that you have to have all of those metrics dialed in, but it would be a better launch pad to have those metrics dialed in before you even dabble with ads, because you're going to end up wasting a lot of money just to fast track the success for your business instead of, taking it slowly but surely. And for the people that are already running ads, right? You're already advertising on a platform, say, such as Facebook, but you haven't yet turned on the engine that is YouTube ads. Maybe it's because you just don't know where to get started. Maybe it's just because you don't know what videos you need to film or how the videos need to be filmed, how long they have to be, what you should say in those videos. Should they be 1-minute video clips? Do they have to be long form, VSLs? It's a lot simpler than you think it is. And the way we do it for our clients who are already running ads on a platform such as Facebook is we literally essentially copy and paste their Facebook ads onto YouTube. You already have a proven ad that's working on Facebook. You need to just simply duplicate that for YouTube, essentially the copy on that ad, and make it just YouTube ads ready. And what I mean by that is you need to make a video that's at least 2 to 3 minutes in length. It can't be 1 minute. It just doesn't get the message out clear enough in less than a minute. It has to be 2 minutes in length. And in that 2 minutes, you need to do 3 things. You need to hook the viewer, who's your ideal viewer. And in the hook, there's already 3 segments we could break down. The hook needs to include 3 elements, which is calling out your specific ideal customer, right? So if you're selling health and fitness supplements to men who are over 40 who want to increase their testosterone, you're not going to tell them in the first 5 seconds, hey, if you're a woman who wants to increase your testosterone, you got to be specific about who you want to go after. If you're a man over 40 who wants to increase your T levels naturally using natural supplements, right? That's just an example off the top of my head. But you need to call out that specific person. You need to give them a benefit or ask them a question that gets them thinking to hook them, or promise an end result that they want in the back of their head that their subconscious mind has been thinking about, and then hook them enough to get them to continue watching for at least another 25 seconds. That way, in the next 25 seconds, within the first 30 seconds of your YouTube ad, you do enough to qualify and disqualify everybody who's not your target demographic, and make sure that if they're not a part of your target demographic, they don't continue watching after 30 seconds and they don't click, because that's when you get charged. So within the first 30 seconds, if you can do those things, you're going to have a lot of, you're going to save a lot of money on unwasted ad spend. And then you have the next minute or a minute and a half to give them exactly what you have to offer, share them your story, which is the second piece. So it's hook, story, right? And this is not new. Russell talks about hook, story, offer. Dean talks about hook, story, close. It's the model's simple. Hook, story, offer, hook, story, close. It's the same 1,000 ways to skin a cat, but that model works because then you go into who you are, why they should trust you, what you have to offer. Then of course, what they need to do next, which is for YouTube ads, is click the blue button on or below this video, and you'll be taken to a page that looks like this. And then you can show a little B-roll of the page they're going to be taken to, so they're not skeptical about what exactly happens next. You show them the customer journey, and then you obviously go in there and add some ethical urgency and scarcity. Don't just lie to people and say it's going away or it's limited seats and stuff, which people do, and everyone has their own way of doing things, but we like to make sure we're as ethical as possible, and we add ethical urgency and scarcity, and then just tell them to click. And if you have a good offer and if you have a good message within that video script, you're going to have a much better time cracking the code to cold traffic on YouTube ads. Now, that's the YouTube ads script process, but there's another layer of that. But before I kind of go into that, obviously I want to answer your questions. I know I kind of just went on a long tangent there.
That was epic, because I think that's probably the best starting point in thinking behind YouTube ads is catch them in the very beginning, but really, call them out, but disqualify. I think that's the biggest piece that most people aren't thinking of, is you don't need to get everybody pushing through your ads, but if you have that 30-second span of time, make the most of it, and don't allow people to go past, ideally, let them hit the skip button, I think is what pops up, if it's not relevant.